Moin to a new episode of Gerrit's Diary. I'm sure you're all waiting for the promised video on renewable energy. It's a huge issue to really get that done objectively. The latest developments are also constantly catching up with us. That's why it's taking us so long, but we hope to have it ready next week. Our Patagonia section is also in the final spurt. I'm standing here with Jorge, and I have to admit that I don't know Spanish, because I had French in school. Jorge's German is on the way, as they say. We decided that I would talk to Jorge in German, we would translate it briefly, and he would answer in English. That's why there will be more cuts in the video than usual, but this is the most fluid way. That way you don't have to listen to me in two languages all the time. So let's go.
Welcome, Jorge.
Thank you.
And you're showing me the Drake Passage first.
We're going to see Drake Passage, later on Glacier.
So, we are at the Drake Passage. We had a vision all along that it was going to be a stormy, rough sea with big waves. When you stand here, it shall feel windy and cold, and for that it must be animated. It was clear for the animation that the waves should move. That's where Tim came in with the video production that can assist with that. But I was in Pilar, and there was Ricardo, who is a brilliant mechanic. He always has crazy ideas and wanted to create waves with Peter and Jorge. He showed us a little model and I stood in front of it and I didn't understand it. I had to look at the device and understand how the movements worked without interfering. And now you can see it here. Now I'd like to know from Jorge what the road was like. Was it easy? Could you duplicate that one copy we've seen there and now it's here? Or was it like so often with us that there was milestones and stumbling blocks until the result was ready? I told him before that I was going to ask that. So, how was it?
Wie war's denn?
So yes, it's been kind of a long way. You saw one of the first mock-ups, that crazy expanding disc that was pouring the now keys of the sea, and from that design to this point, like a year and a half later, there was several designs in between, and now the Drake Passage is let's say a crazy machine. If you look under it, it's a crankshaft that looks like a worm with a lot of levers moving up and down, and it's all like a fluent machine that it actually was born from a video that my dad was watching on TV. It was a Bruce Hornsby concert on piano, and he was looking at the levers of the piano moving, and he was like, oh yes, this is what I need for the Drake Passage. And then that was the latest design from that night on, and yes, month later, we had the final designs, the final tests, and then we started to put into production the 35 rows by 9 columns that compose the Drake Passage. These ones that you have here, you have 35 by 9, you have 315 of these keys that move up and down, and it's not only the motion up and down, you get a low-moving sea and a stormy sea, and that's the tricky part.
Thank you. And one big compliment is that when Arne saw it first, Arne is always, ich was wieder auf Deutsch, Arne is
one of the most important people for us from the mechanics team, who has an eye for continuous operation. Always criticize the suitability for continuous operation. When he first saw it, all those mechanical parts, skeptical that it would last in continuous operation. With Arne's experience along with you guys, I have a good feeling. I saw both parties talking to each other, and there were great ideas for it, if it would work. An extremely good idea of what could be changed also came from Jorge. And that's what I love so much. In the beginning you have an idea, a vision, and you just try it. From Ricardo came the idea of how to make waves and amplitude adjustment. The path towards the big machine was not drawn. It was not clear how we could do it, but we had to try. We developed it step by step. Jorge just told us that they had to do it 3 times, and that's just our mentality. If everything had been planned down to the last detail at the beginning, and it had been decided not to deviate from it, something like this would not have come out. Then you go into development too narrow-minded and can no longer make a turn. I'm sure that such a device could not have been planned on the scratch pad. That's why I'm so happy to have found you guys. It just fits. We would never have been able to build Patagonia the way we did if the South Americans hadn't told us that we Germans had the wrong view of things. And you are mechanically as crazy as we are. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for that.
It's so fascinating to sit underneath this. There are always fascinating reactions from people looking at the airport technology for the first time. And then I stand next to it and think to myself, yes, we built it, and I know every development step. With this machine, I also know any of the steps along the way. Especially Arne and the whole mechanics team were talking to Jorge and co. over the internet all the time. But we also saw it here for the first time in real. Now you can see how it works, and imagine all the steps along the way. This comparison with the piano is also great. I can see the idea behind it. I know that as being somewhere else and seeing something that inspires you to solve a problem. It's great. With all this enthusiasm, one question does come to mind. Next, I would have tried to explain to you how it works mechanically. How is it that the bar goes up and down without it lifting in total, but only adjusts the amplitude? This is ingenious. But I think Jorge can explain it better.
Yes, genau. So, as you see, this is you have the main axis with the 35 offset discs that create this eccentric motion, which transmit to this lever right here. And then you have this pivot point right here. This is where the main motion transmits to the top. So when you lower and when you get this up and or you go down, that's where you change the position between this lever and the pivot point. So let's say if you go up, this whole like, let's call it knives, they go inside and they get this piece closer to the pivot point. Yeah. So if this piece is closer to the pivot point, we have very little motion. But if it gets further away, when this is going down, it gets further away from the pivot point, and then you see, like now, it's going up and down a lot more. So if you go up, you get close to the pivot point, and you have very small low motion. But if you go down, you get this, and that's the main function of the machine. I don't know if it's clear enough. So maybe we can...
Did you understand?
Yeah, we can maybe go again if you have time.
So, ich habe den Standort
We
gewechselt.
changed the location because it's just as important. In conclusion to the Drake passage, we can say that right now the video production is still missing. With projectors we will try to make it even more realistic than it already is. The surface is also a huge challenge. We have always thought that fabric is the best solution, but we are not 100% sure. We still do not know, even though we are already close to the opening. But it is already a gigantic experience. For us, it is also the first time that a whole landscape part on the layout should move realistically. It's still a long way to go. The video production, the surface, and some things about continuous operation. I talked to Arne, there are still a few problems we need to solve. But be curious to see what it will look like on the opening day. You can be just as excited about this one. The idea was to depict a calving glacier. Typical for South America, the Perito Moreno Glacier. I was there myself, and when you stand in front of it, it is just gigantic. In the case of the Perito Moreno Glacier, not necessarily, but in general, glacier breaks always have to do with global warming. So there's a bit of sadness involved. Here was a natural spectacle, known for centuries. Seeing it live fascinated me, but it's also a problem. When you've seen it in real life, the expectations are very high. We've been talking to you about whether you can manage to build a glacier break. Remember that in the beginning you were more hesitant than optimistic, but an idea came pretty quickly. Jorge in particular was very convinced that his idea was the right way to go. In Hamburg we also experimented with different solutions, including real ice, and he won. Now he is standing here and has a similar problem as I have with the Formula One. It should be opened soon and is not quite ready yet.
Ja, es müsste langsam mal eröffnet werden und ist noch nicht ganz fertig. Are you confident to do it in the short time left to bring it to a finish?
I certainly hope so, because we have several issues to work with. The first one is the clearance or the space that we have under the scenery to fit the machines. As you see, all of these machines are almost higher than the glacier face or facade. Of course, we have this incline coming in towards here, but it's so close, so very close. We have the limit switches that prevent the glacier to overrun and break, and we have to be careful. And also, it's important to leave an access hatch here for future maintenance, or in case you have to take one machine off for a further bigger maintenance. So it's quite challenging in the time that we have left to build this under construction and to have the scenery on top, which I'm mostly sure that we can make it. All the scenery is on Felix's hand. He's very talented and I think he will do it on time. But we still have to see about the access hatch, the under construction, everything working, everything leaving space for the machines, and some adjustments later.
There is still a lot to do, but I've seen some angles where it looks very realistic when you kneel down and look through a camera, for example. A big challenge was that a glacier doesn't just fall off. Usually it cracks first, which is a challenge for us, because we are responsible for the sound. Then it slides down and eventually tips over. When it falls into the water, such a broken chunk often submerges and then comes up again. Then it calms down and floats away. We can't do all of that, but it's like this idea for a mechanic that is already very close to that. Now it's up to all of us. Down here you can look into the drive. How do we get that disguised? By slightly coloring the water? However, water has the problem that it eventually starts to stink due to microorganisms that form. So the water needs the same treatment as our Scandinavia pool. We are already setting up the technology for this. This could mean problems for coloring the water. A filter system is designed to filter out small parts, and paint is also small parts. We have not yet reached our goal, and we have already been dealing with the coloring and cleanup problems in Hamburg alone for a year. There, too, we are confident that we will be able to complete it by the opening date. Jorge has just explained that this mechanism needs space. It grew during the development period because we all wanted to reach for the stars. This means that we need strokes here to translate this movement, which needs height under or behind the plant. Felix already has ideas, but this still has to be concealed so that it becomes a glacier harmoniously. The most important thing is that the mechanism is up and running. I'm in the process of accessing it through our Mivo step, as we call it. This is our light system that illuminates everything here and for which there are circuit maps. I have shown them to you many times. We have developed one of these for stepper motors. It can control this perfectly and I only have to adjust the light control a bit for these ingenious movements.
Yes, it not only depends on the mechanics. Of course, the mechanics have to be flexible enough to allow the motion, but it's so much work or so much special work on the programming, because if you don't get the fluent motion between the two step motors, you will get a robotic motion and will look really, really fake. It's really important to have ascending or accelerating ramps and decelerating ramps in the correct manner so it looks like an actual icefall.
Did you had time to try different movements together to combine the angles and
yes,
things like that?
They are working together, but to my taste, is still a lot more to be done to get it in a perfect way. Also, it's quite tricky because when you're looking at this particular icefall for so much time, so like constantly looking and like just touch a little bit there, touch a little until it's perfect. Then you go away for like an hour and you come back and no, it's not perfect. So you start working again and you get lost.
Did you try
in motion.
some random sequences? So maybe it should be a way to could be a way to program some for all different movements randomly.
Yes.
And sit in front. Somebody has to sit in front for hours. Look. Oh, this was it.
Yeah.
It could be an idea.
That could be nice, and we still have to decide if we are gonna have 3 ice fallings during the day cycle, and then when it's night they are coming back, or they may come back during the day, which is not the best way. So you will see the animation coming back when you have light. So the idea from the beginning was to have the ice fall one time here during the day, then this one, and then the middle one. And then when the night comes and you're distracted with Drake's Passage, the ice comes back to life again. and we still have to decide that. But of course, programming, maybe having 3 or 4 programs on each board could be a very nice idea. So it's impossible for you to detect that is one icefall is the same as before. This will be like the airport. You have different angles on each specific plane, similar to reality. And in reality, there's not a single icefall which is similar to the one before. They are all different and they are all really crazy.
I just understood that I still have a lot of work to do, because my control for stepper motors does not know random sequences yet. Since randomness leads to the craziest results, it must be a regulated randomness. I feel like I still need to work on that. But it's also great that it's not finished yet. By the fact that it's not yet finished, the final touch will be a collaborative project. I see ideas coming together everywhere right now. I hope we can get it done by opening day. Otherwise, we'll have to rework. I'm so excited because of all the different movements and the random sequences. There will be unique moments that won't reoccur. That is the goal. That you can stand in front of a glacier and hope that it breaks off. Because I was standing there and nothing happened. I stood there and looked for hours and nothing major broke off. This is exactly the experience that would be great here. Of course, something will always break off here, because everyone wants to see it. But you're supposed to catch a particularly great break-off. These will be random, and I'm really looking forward to them.
Zufall sein. Da freue ich mich wirklich sehr drauf. Jorge, thanks a lot to all the team. Und vielen Dank
Thanks to you guys for watching again and letting me tell you such great things. We burn for it and celebrate that we get to do this, to implement crazy ideas without much planning. I am so happy that we found people who think the same way we do. And I would be so happy if I could tell you that Formula 1 is ready. I'll continue with that another time. The topic of renewable energy is so difficult, as objectively as possible, that it does not cause anxiety or anger or similar things. We are still in the process of recording and editing it. Check it out, our goal is Thursday. See you then, bye.
Bis dahin freue mich, euch wiederzusehen. Tschüss.